Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. We're here. We're at it. Let's do it. It's the morning dew for certified doers just like you. I am Jackie Glass, mama, Navy vet, certified doer, and the least of legislator for the House of Delegates, 93rd District. Honored to serve. Happy to be a doer with you. And I have to say this because I know some of y'all are doing so much, right? Like you're doing the things, like all the stuff and things. I need you to be a doer that delegates. So I want you in all of your stuff to think about what does it mean to be a doer that delegates? What's the thing that you're going to delegate so that you can level up on some stuff? Good morning, Nicole. Good morning, Chelsea. Good morning, XOXO Cherie. I'll take those. I'll take all of that this morning. I've got some stuff, right? We've got some good stuff this morning. Good morning, Brian Daniel. So good to see you. I got a good one this morning. At least I think it's great. I've got a whole lot of I've been doing a lot of thinking this morning about just what's happening in the world. And I can tell you just from um hello Jackie, now you gathering us this AM in delegate. Yes, you got to be a doer to delegate. I'm telling you, like I'm with it. I'm with putting the stuff on the plate. I'm with being out there like let's go. But if we're gonna level up, we're gonna have to figure out how we hand some things over so that we can have the capacity to level up, to be brilliant on the basics, so that we can hand over some of the basics to trusted agents. Now, we cannot delegate responsibility. That's one thing I learned in the military. You can never delegate responsibility, but you can delegate tasks and actions. So this is what we have to do this morning, just for you. I just feel like you needed to hear that because I felt like I needed to say it to myself as I get ready to go to session. And I will give y'all sort of that synopsis. I'm saying this again. I'll be back in session January 14th through March 14th, back up at the General Assembly doing the people's business. This year is a little different. I have not narrowed down all of the things I'm going to carry, and usually I've done that by now. It's just because we're in a trifecta and there's just so many things to consider. I'm really still sitting with myself. One, what I can carry and what we put on the docket. Because sometimes when you carry some stuff, they don't want you talking that ish because we got to take responsibility for all of the things that we say. So I'm just kind of putting myself in the position to figure out what I want to carry. But this morning, I'll tell you, my spouse was up with me, and he was like, Jackie, and I thought it was nice because sometimes I'll be like, he don't be caring about what I'm doing. It's not that he don't care. It's just, again, the doers be having so many things where it's like, I'm not keeping up. He's like, what you going to talk about this morning? I was like, I don't know. Tell me what's good. Tell me what's up. Let me put my phone on silent. Um, so he told me about, I missed this yesterday about these stimulus checks, and I promise y'all I'm going somewhere with this. I really want to talk this morning about manufacturing crisis and buying loyalty, because that's what I see happening, not just at the federal level, but that is a thing, and I feel like it is happening right now. But that's what we're going to hone in on today, and then the things that we can do to recognize it and to shift from it when people are manufacturing a crisis and then calling themselves the solution. And then where also maybe you might be able to use that as a strength, right? Because look, these are tactics, right? And I need to go back and read The Art of War, quite frankly. But this week, if you guys don't know this week, the president announced a 17,776 check for military service member, and is calling it this like warrior dividend. All right. So that number 17,776 should be familiar to you. 1776 is familiar with you. Because we are approaching the 250-year anniversary of these United States. And that is important because I think I want to put perspective on the moment that we're in. Part of the moment that we're in is the fact that we are in a trying time. And to be fair about these United States is that decades after decade after decade, we have gotten better as a country. And it is only fitting that at 250 years in, that we are at another crisis. I mean, at 100 years in, we were in the midst of a civil war. Now we're 250 years in, and we are fighting fascism. this is the nature of having a democracy. This is the nature of the thing. So I just want to help y'all understand that. And I know, hey, Casey, thank you for subscribing. And I know that this feels tense and it feels horrible. So before I go into the deep stuff or deep, actually, I'm going to talk about this and then I want to give y'all something that helped me out today. To sort of ground myself in like, we are good. We will be good. And what a time to be alive in this moment. But these checks, right? These checks that just went out, it matters because that money was not new money. And I want y'all to understand that when y'all hear this or y'all got military service members, because remember, we were talking about manufacturing a crisis and then buying the folks to do it. That money that's given to these service members, it's not new, it's not personal money, it's not a gift. Congress actually appropriated nearly $3 billion to address the housing problem for military families. Rent is rising, unsustainable, the markets are unsustainable. And then there's this whole idea of like, what does long-term affordability look like? I say this as a service member. When I was an E5 in the Navy, I was pregnant with my son. I had custody of my niece and custody of my youngest brother. I was living in San Diego. I was on WIC. My niece was going to Head Start. I hadn't gotten, because they messed up my pay, I hadn't gotten paid in 3 months. I was pretty much broken home. Okay. And not even, and my boyfriend, who is now my spouse, we've been together for 20 years at this point. But at that time, he wasn't even in, he was stationed in Florida. And I was in San Diego by myself, trying to find childcare because I was at 6 months pregnant, still didn't have a childcare plan. Like, it is not, people like to think that, the military has helped me level up as a person, like wholeheartedly level up. But that time in, it's a struggle bus. I struggle just as much as people out that were not in the military. So what he did, and I just need this, and I'm going to go to the comments and then I'm going to give you something to uplift your spirits. I promise you, I ain't going to keep you down. I'm going to bring us up. Is that what he did? Instead of fixing housing, which is a problem, the administration issued this one-time check and rebranded it and then took a victory lap. So here is the deal. That housing problem, it still exists, right? The healthcare problems, they still exist. The grocery problems, these things still exist, but the perception has been management. And as a person formerly in the intelligence community, I worked in a shop that was called perception management. And we talked about like how we manage the way people feel and do about certain countries, about certain, like, this is perception management. And that is the language that we need, that y'all need to put in. All this is perception man. That money is not new. That money was for housing, and he took it and branded it for his own doing. He is not a generous person. He is managing loyalty. He needs the military on his side. A fascist regime needs that. And I will go into historical context on this so that you have it for yourself. So we have seen this pattern before. This is, and I'm going to go into history. We've seen a pattern before where you create or worsen a problem. You name it as a fear. You force these folks. They will force. They'll offer force reinforcements, ICE. They'll offer cash, warrior bonuses, as proof of leadership. Right? These are things that they're using as proof of leadership, and then they leave the system broken, which is what we've seen in his daily life with businesses and things like that. I'm just being real with y'all. Y'all know I don't go hyper partisan. I'm just going, this is the thing. This is the person. So you don't have to have loyalty to a party to understand that this is a problem. And now when you see it, we'll talk about history, what history tells us, right? Where manufacturing a crisis by the loyalty, how leaders will create a problem and then pay enforcers and call it stability. And that's crazy. That's crazy. But I'm going to go to the comments, and then I want to give y'all something. I want to give y'all something that really, really helps. Okay. That really, really helps. So I see Chelsea said empires usually only last 250 years. So the battle continues is real part of history. Yeah, it's a real part of history. We are a real part of history. And what a time to be alive. Thank you for explaining the service. You're very welcome. I just needed y'all to know that was already an appropriated fund, right? Congress itself, right? And this is something that Congress has been talking about for years, right? For years, Congress has been talking about the fact that military housing is not up to snuff, and that the cost of living military members, and I'm saying I lived that too. I did almost 11 years in the Navy, and that was it. Housing is no joke, even when you live on base. Even when you live on base. Yep. So where do snowmen? I love it. Now that I'm on, I have to where I can be on, what do you call it? YouTube reels. Just weird things get put in the comments, and I'm sure y'all can see it. But hey, it's whatever. 21 years in the Army, retired E7, and Maryland has one of the highest BAH rates. Yeah, BAH, it can help, right? And if you're a military service member, that you know that, right? You know that it's difficult, right? You absolutely know how difficult it can be. And I do want to say, like, I love, and I got somebody in the comments, I don't know who this is. I think it's little something that says, DI E5. I didn't end as an E5. I was, it is very, what we have to understand is that sometimes when people are faced with truths, or they're faced with different opinions, that they'll immediately go to talking points, right? They'll immediately go to the things like saying, it's so weird for you to come on here and say DEI E5, and you don't even know my military service, right? Like, so just be wary of having conversations with folks that have, that don't understand that a lot of this is not partisan. This is about us. And we know that we're a community here. So welcome, little dreadlocks, but like, yo, don't be with the shits. It's not a good look. We're not ignorant around here, right? So I want to give y'all something to hold on to, right? To hold on to about this, that hopefully will put some positive in your spirit, right? I'm going to show this, right? So before we move on to the stuff and things, I ran into this on social the other day. It's called a pep talk line. Some elementary school kids in California created this pep talk line to sort of boost spirits. And now they call it, what is it called? Now they've taken, it's like a public art project that these kindergartners did, or elementary school kids. And they're actually creating a book called You Are Amazing Like a Rocket. And if you call this number, y'all, if you are feeling frustrated, nervous, it says press 1. I'm actually going to call this number for y'all to hear it, because it is absolutely beautiful. Take the number down, put it in your phone, because I think we are living in times where it is very difficult to find the humanity in us, to remember that we are all children, that we're just trying to do the best with what we got, and that we are loved. So I'm going to dial the number. Hold on. See if I have it just for y'all. I'm going to dial the number. Okay, you guys hear it?
Welcome to Pep Talk, a public art project by Westside School. Bienvenidos a Pep Talk, un proyecto creado por los estudiantes de Westside School.
Para un mensaje feliz, presiona 5.
Please listen to the following options for encouraging messages.
Encouraging messages.
If you're feeling mad, frustrated, or nervous, press 1. If you need words of encouragement and life advice, press 2. If you need a pep talk from kindergartners, press 3.
I'm telling you, go listen to Pep Talk, okay? It will make your day. It will make your day. I was just like, I'm going to leave it on the screen. I think, is it still up there, show? It's still up there. So I'm going to leave it up there the entire time that I'm talking, because I think that it's just a beautiful thing to have. Happy Thursday, Karen. I think it's just a beautiful thing to have. So on top of that, we've got, what does it say here? It says, I'm looking at what you guys are saying, manufacturing crisis just to get credit for solving the problem. Yep. Nicole said, my internship is a state government gave me a basic budget appropriation, but I never served, and neither of my parents served. I appreciate. Thank you. Oh, no worries. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. So, oh, I love Cousin Ed. He's talking about like artists at the Capitol meetup. Caffeine and a Sunday at 12 p.m. Sunday at 12. I love this. Gratitude. But yes, this is so cute. We do need these things to keep us grounded, to realize like why we're doing the things that we do. Like that's the real, that's a real deal. It's so important. It is because I lose it too. I'll tell you, I quit my job once a week. In my head, I quit this. I'm like, I'm not doing this no more. What are we even doing? I don't want to do this anymore. But so I just want to transition so that I make sure being respectful of y'all time this morning. The morning do this morning, I want to talk about manufacturers crisis and buying loyalty. We talked about the service members and how the check really was for housing. Y'all got to see that, like, and then they got to see that, because what happened was in 1.0, there was a lot of conversations about how the stimulus checks, and then certain people were like, I'm voting for this man because he the only one fix the problem. He gave me a check. Like, that's that is part our ignorance. And I'm saying I can be ignorant too, right? I could not know something, and I can have a knowledge gap that you all help me fill. That happens all the time, where people in the community help me fill a knowledge gap, and we got to be on this journey together, because sometimes y'all are hearing and reading stuff, and a decision maker or policy maker like myself has no freaking idea. So just make sure that I wouldn't have known about this had my spouse not have said something to me this morning. So I'm saying that it helps us understand, like, we've got to, but also trust but verify. Even though we know that we are seeing and hearing everything, media sources are not as good as they used to be. We have to be the ones to take a look in. But how do leaders actually create problems, and then they pay people to enforce, and then they call it stability? I want to be super clear about what we're talking about. Throughout history, there have been leaders that have undermined systems, right? Manufactured level of like scarcity, or mismanaged public goods, or and then they direct resources to reinforcements, right? To whether it's to the military, whether it's to immigration and customs. These things are not generosity. These are the ways that some folks, specifically in fashion spaces, try to manage loyalty. And that is not a partisan thing. That is historical analysis. And I'm going to tell you what the pattern looks like, and then where we've seen it in history. So the pattern is that you destabilize or you neglect the civilian, the people systems. That's housing, that's food, that's healthcare, right? It's just, I'm cackling because it's like, this is what happened. This has happened throughout history. This is not new. What we're seeing is not new. So you destabilize or neglect civilian systems, housing, food, healthcare. Then you amplify the fear and the grievance, right? You tie that to stability. It's a problem. These illegals are doing this. Healthcare, it's affordability is a problem. Like, aren't you mad at these people, right? They have to have a boogeyman, because they're the ones who are going to solve it, right? Sometimes they're the boogeyman. And then they direct benefits, whether it's pay or it's privileges, to the enforcement. And in this case, that's the armed forces, right? In this case, that's ICE, right? Like, they're the reinforcements. And then they frame the leader as the sole restorer of order. Like, I'm the only one who can solve this problem. That is the playbook. I want y'all to be really clear about what's going to happen at the top of the year. Once some of the funding goes, there has not been funding to massively call in enforcements across the United States. So you've just seen pockets of cities that have been targeted. But once that increased funding for the enforcements comes in, top of next year, we may see massive enforcements across these United States taking action on those fears that have been amplified, those grievances. These people are bad. Immigrants are bad. Democrats are bad, or Republicans are bad. Like, politicians are bad. Like, these whole things. That dates back to like the Roman Empire. And then if you guys have in Rome, there was the Roman emperors purposely neglected public warfare and governance. They paid the privileged guard to secure their rule, like the guards. And then the guards were given bonuses, they were given lands, they were given political leverage. And as a result, the emperors were able to, they were installed, they were moved, they were killed by the basis of military loyalty. All of the civil institutions collapsed. Rome became unstable and transactional. And the parallel here is that when you try to buy military when military loyalty, when it's purchased rather than principled, it will erode democracy, period. I mean, you look at Julius Caesar, right? As we walk through here, Julius Caesar, he promised land and wealth to all of his legions. He sure did. He promised land and wealth. And then his soldiers actually became loyal to him personally, not to the Republic, right? His soldiers were like, we with you. It's all about you, not to the Republic. And as a result, the Roman Empire or the Roman Republic, it actually collapsed. Military allegiance was replaced with civic allegiance. And the lesson is when the soldiers serve the person instead of the system, what happens? The system cannot survive. I just want to walk us through Napoleon, right? We know the story. Some of us know the story of Napoleon, right? Napoleon tied national identity and economic reward to the military's success completely. And all of that civilian suffering, right? When we're talking about healthcare, housing, groceries, all of that civilian for us today, but for them, all of the civilian suffering, all it did was increase while the army was glorified and prioritized. Like you all see in the news where we see that there's a concerted effort to America, glorify the military. And as a result for Napoleon, what did he end up in? Endless war, economic exhaustion, and eventual collapse. Militarization becomes a substitute for governance. And that is, again, part of the goal. Let me go to the comments because I'm about to go to Nazi Germany, like for real, like such as, and Daniel says it, such as show full blockade of Virginia because they took our oil. Right? Like this is part of the issue. Let's see. It keeps coming down. I want to make sure that banner is up there all the time because I want y'all to be able to see that. But Nazi Germany, what happened is the Weimar Republic, they inherited a massive economic, they inherited a massive economic hardship. And Hitler, he did not fix the civilian system first. Okay, sorry. I think I froze. For a second. All right, there we go. I think we're back at it. Let me know because it looks like on Instagram. On Instagram, it looks like I'm frozen, but I'm not sure if I am or not. So y'all just, you froze. Yeah. You said, girl, you froze. They trying to quiet you. That's what it feels like, ain't it though? So what ends up happening is, and let me know on Instagram if you can hear me or see me. But what ended up happening is that Nazi Germany, they got the military loyalty. They eliminated civil liberties. Hello. They eliminated civil liberties, and that didn't, what happened in Nazi Germany didn't begin with genocide. Y'all have to we have to remember that it didn't begin with genocide. It began with economic fear, and it begins with a promised order, right? And then we look in Venezuela. Somebody just brought him up, David James, right? Like, I'm gonna give two more examples, and then I'm gonna keep it moving, right? So in Venezuela, Chavez and Maduro, what happened in Venezuela was there was civilian shortages worsened. So like housing, food, being able to take care of themselves, all of that shortage. Military leaders of Venezuela were given control over the industry and the resources. And what ended up happening? The armed forces remained loyal. The civil society collapsed, and authoritarians rule was entrenched. And so again, when the military is insulated from the civilians suffering, democracy, it can't correct itself. It can't correct itself. And I keep, there's a lot of European countries up in here because we know that part of that culture, to be quite honest, the way that European rule has been over time is conquer, conquest, and destroy, right? And assimilation. That is a fact. Conquer, contrast, conquest, and destroy. Never really been places where you see in history that European centered rule has been able to find community and stuff. But it's not. So here's the deal. So what I want you to understand is that I was going to talk about Zimbabwe. There was an economic collapse, policy future, military elites rewarded money, military enforced political power, elections became ceremonial, right? That's again, if we pay attention to what's happening, right? Here's the thing, right, is that across history, civilian systems have deteriorated or they or intentionally neglected. Because we're here in this time, like because we're sitting here in 2025, should not place doom and gloom in your heart. Because in spite of all of that, we are still in this place in these United States, right? We're still in this place. In spite of all of that history, there's a way to make sure we get back to people-centered. Leaders name a crisis sometimes that they help create. Military security forces receive targeted benefits and exceptions and incentives. Loyalty is framed as patriotism. Dissent is framed as disorder. And it is not about policy ever. It is just alignment. The Art of War. If and drop it in the chat if you've read The Art of War. And it's something that I know I need to reread because I haven't picked up that book in so long. But Sun Tzu in The Art of War says the general, how does it go? The general who advances without coveting fame and retreats without fearing disgrace is a jewel of the state. Let me say that again. The general, this is from The Art of War, Sun Tzu, and I'm trying to remember it correctly. The general who advances without coveting fame and retreats without fearing disgrace is a jewel of the states. Y'all, when leaders buy allegiance, hilarious. Hold on. They playing with me this morning. I'm just saying I don't ever have these kinds of problems on my with my internet. Like, what is it? But I'll say this. I'll say this again, and hopefully it sets is that it says the general who that leaders who buy they're not leading when they buy allegiance. They're just managing risks. That's it. That is the whole thing. Yeah. I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but I believe. I believe. That's wild. So if you just joined me, like my whole stuff was shut down and I was connected to the internet, everything was still there. Like everything was still here. I was still connected to the internet and everything. So I do believe in, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I do believe sometimes folks be playing, right? Just turn the room into our own hangout spot. I love this. Thank you for hanging in there with me. Yeah, that's wild. Y'all, I have not had an issue like that. I had to connect to my phone, even though I was like, yes. Anyway, I want to go back to, I don't know what the last thing I said was, but I just want to say this out loud is that you and I think I said this, we don't experience life as a system. Like our life isn't like these charts that go up and down. We are experiencing the systems as rent being due, as grocery bills, as medical debt, as job security. And when there's fear stoked in all of that, it narrows our thinking. And that scarcity sometimes breeds obedience to what's right in front of us. And so here are the action items that I want to have for you as doers, like, because this is the work, right? Here are the action items, I think. There's a pattern. You have to recognize the pattern, right? What we just talked about, we went through history, that don't argue with personalities. Track systems, incentives, and beneficiaries. Like, do not argue with the personality. I'm not going to sit up here and try to argue with a Pete Hegseth, right? Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to look at how the military is optioned, where the incentives are, who's benefiting from things, and ask yourself in this pattern of recognizing a pattern, ask yourself, who is suffering, who is protected, and who is being asked to sacrifice, right? Those are the three questions you ask yourself. No, that's number one, recognize the pattern. Number two, refuse the manufactured scarcity. Challenge narratives, say like, challenge the things that say, because somebody I think just said in the comments too, we're doomed. No, challenge the narratives that say this is inevitable, there is no alternative, you got to choose between safety and freedom. History does not say that. History says otherwise. So refuse that narrative. Number three, I think we have to strengthen our civil institutions. That means making sure our courts stay independent, making sure we have a free press. I told y'all it's hard out here because I just had a story in the news. I was in the news and I was like, that's false. But the lie goes around the world twice before the truth does anything. And I'm looking at folks, other politicians, like, y'all out here like perpetuating a lie too. So like, civilian oversight, y'all being a part of the process. And that's just not at the federal level, that's at the local level too. It's rural communities that are fighting data centers, that are doing the things y'all gotta, and local governance is where it's at. Authoritarianism, it thrives when institutions get hollowed out, and that's where the people come in. And we also lastly have to make sure that the military does not become politicized. The military must always serve the Constitution and not a leader. Politicizing our service member, it just puts them too in long-term danger, right? It puts them in danger, and that's real. And I know we hate to hear this times, but it's like, we got to vote, we got to organize, and we got to document. We look at the Holocaust under the lens of what Anne Frank wrote. Are you writing and keeping your history? Democracy doesn't collapse super loud at first, right? It slowly erodes, and our job is to notice early, and I think we're doing that. So I want to help you, leader to leader, understand, like, this is not alarmism. It is a historical legacy that we've seen. We don't study history to feel smart. At least we shouldn't study history to feel just like smart people. Historical literacy is so important in these times. We should study it so that we can actually call what's repeating. We don't, we don't see things repeating and saying, this feels like something new, like this has never happened before, because it isn't. Because it isn't. I want to walk back to I want to leave you with good news, right? I want to leave just with good stuff. And say, take the time today. I'm going to put the banner back up there. Where is it? Take the time today to, if I can find it. Actually, I'll just create a new one. Take the time to actually call this phone number. I think it's up here. If I can find it. I'm just going to make a new banner because I don't know what's happening here. But call that number, the kids hotline that did the thing. I'm going to put it in the chat. That's what I'll do. I'll put it in all of the chats. I really enjoyed. I called and it made me cry a little bit too, right? It made me cry a little bit too. So just, take the time to take care of yourself. Take the time to make sure, and you're very welcome. I think the action is really a part of the important piece of what we do. Thank you for the reminder. If you've got any events or anything's coming up, please drop it in the chat. Brian Daniel says 9:45 Bike Norfolk meetup. I said Norfolk because somebody just said it. Bike Norfolk meetup at Granby and Willowwood to promote new bike lanes. Congratulations. So I'm going to show that so folks can see that. I believe, Chelsea, you mentioned your Sea Snort said stormtroopers now are DHS ICE created by Homeland. What? Yes. Okay. So if you look, I'm going to copy and paste this. Chelsea Higgs Wise says, in case you want to follow, has Marijuana Justice has a newsletter. And I'm going to put this, it's Marijuana Justice. And if I could spell, I would be dangerous. Marijuana. Okay. But put your stuff in the chat so I can go ahead and put it out there so I can tell people what you got going on. Okay. Got it from IG. Got you. I put it in there. And also she says follow THC Justice Now if you guys are into, if that's something that you really want to be a part of as we get close to the legislation piece of being able to do the stuff and things. Quote of the day, if I could spell it, I would be DJ. If I could spell it. It's true. But we all have our things. But yes, take the time to take care of yourself. Remember, the actions is like, again, I just want to say this because to have to say this again is that, we don't want to be alarmist. That's not the goal here. At least I don't want to be an alarmist, but I do believe in historical literacy, and that I don't look at what's happened in the past just to be smart and spout off stuff here. I really just, again, want you to say when history is repeating itself, that it doesn't feel new. It doesn't feel new. Okay. Last but not least, I feel like there was something I was about to say. I talked about the, goodness, I feel like I'm missing something. I don't know, but the hotline to get the pep talk is in the chat. I am wishing you all the most amazing, bestest day. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself, because that's what we need. Yes, and yes, I hope that offer still stands for. And I know Brian, you're like, look, I can't come up this year, but the offer still stands. If you're interested in coming up to the General Assembly, or you just want to come shadow us for a day, we welcome you. You're always welcome to join us. It's always a good time, or maybe it's not a good time, and you learn some new stuff. Okay, until next time, please go ahead and like and subscribe. If you enjoy the work that we do, we always need folks to contribute. So you can go to deliajackieGlass.com and invest in the work that we do, because it is, again, an honor and privilege to serve. But no money, no mission. That's the real thing. No money, no mission. All right, you are loved. Be kind. This has been the Morning Dew for certified doers just like you. I'm Delia Jackie Hope Glass, Mama Navy vet, certified doer. Love to do with you, because doers get more done. Don't sue me, Home Depot. Take care.